house was my dad's. When he died, I didn't want to sell the house. So I thought, well, if I can do something with it that's good and useful, I can maybe justify keeping this house. I don't think we really started with the idea of a library. It started actually with the girl who lived in that house there. And one day I was sitting reading the New York Times and she came up and began reading it to me. So I said, "Kelsey, you like to read?" She said, "No, I don't like to read, I love to read." Which was when I began lending her books out of my collection. And gradually she began talking to other kids in the neighborhood. She would do book talks. They'd go like this: "Joey swallowed the key and then he pooped it out." And then the kids wanted to read Joey Pigs Swallows the Key. So little by little, the other kids began borrowing books too, and just little by little, we began building up the idea of having a community library. We got people to donate books. Everywhere we went, we would talk about needing books, and even neighbors gave books that belonged to older children who had outgrown books. The books have been the easiest part. We keep getting boxes dropped off on the front porch. It had to start small, though. You would never start going, "I think I'll collect thousands of books and turn a house over to being a community library."
When you mention library to someone, they might really just simply think of that quiet place that people wander in, browse at the books, and select a few and then wander away. And that's not really what happens on a library day, on a typical Sunday.
At first, my hopes were really simple, that they would pick up a book and they would take it home and they would read it. But over time, it has come to encompass learning how to cook, learning something about human anatomy, learning Greek myths and legends.
There's gathering, there's kids talking, there's kids playing together.
We read. We read aloud, we read with the kids, they read to us. And then we do the stuff you can't do in school.
Once I came here, as soon as I stepped into the library, I just knew. I was like, this is amazing. I mean, this isn't something that you see a lot. I've been blown away by the amount of stuff we do. Just the programs that we put on, the experiences. I mean, the sewing, I learned to sew.
It's become an opportunity to leave the neighborhood without leaving, to broaden the view that the kids have of the world, because many of them don't leave the neighborhood much at all. I think at public libraries that's become a very huge thing, that you go in and you use the computer and the books are sitting there.
In the time before computers or before digital media was so pervasive, kids would spend time creating with their hands, doing things with their hands, and being creative with the materials that you have on hand. We feel like the skills that are worked on here with your hands, with a creative mind, with a subset of natural materials can get kids thinking in the same kinds of ways that you want them to be thinking when they approach creating things with a computer.
They also work together, which is less so. It's usually an interface between the computer and the kid. We got bunches of kids all, holding things and taping things and painting things. And I think that builds the skill of working with other people, not a machine, other people. And I think that's important.
From the library perspective, trying to protect a collection, ours isn't precious. It's just simply the collection that we have that we want to get into the hands of kids. So it really frees us up to be very generous with our books.
We have a door knock policy, so if you need a book during the week, you just knock and we come out and we open the library.
One of our goals when Adrian and I got going was to try to see, is there something here that really could be replicated by other people? Could we figure out a protocol, figure out ways of doing things that would be easy enough and accessible enough for other people to do a community library in their neighborhood or in their community center as well. And we think we have figured some of those things out.
We both agree that this could happen anywhere there's enough interest.
The challenge of having people who are regularly be committed on a long-term basis, I think is something that's probably a requirement to make something like this work.
As far as the library goes,
it's so hard to predict just because we don't know what the kids will be in 5 years. We don't know what the influx of children in the neighborhood will be. So it's kind of interesting.
Some of our kids are getting older, and so I think we need to change in order to keep them as part of the library. I begin to think about things like, how do we encourage them to go to college? We had a program where our college students came and talked about what they were studying, how they got into college, how they were paying for college. So I think we need to stay responsive to whoever we have using the library, and that changes. The kids who started with us are all of a sudden looking so grown up. I mean, the library has become not so much a regimented space and time, but an idea that has spread throughout the neighborhood.